welcome to episode 4 of Cooking with Love. I'm your chef host, Linda Verasso. I'm the owner of Peppercorns on Main on Route 18 in South Weymouth. And what I'd like to do today is one of my favorite treats, which is dips. So we're going to show you how to make some delicious dips today. We're going to make 3 actually. 2 of them are warm dips and 1 of them is cold. And I think all 3 of them you're going to be very happy to have in your party food arsenal. But you really don't need a party to make these. So we're going to start right in here. We're going to make an artichoke and spinach dip, which is something that you see many times when you go to a party. It's really usually very creamy and delicious. And what you're about to see is how easy it is to make. So let's jump right in. You'll see on your recipe that it's got a handful of ingredients. Cream cheese, of course, which I think every dip we do today has cream cheese in it. We are a little bit of mayonnaise, some chopped fresh spinach. You can use frozen spinach if you want to. If you do use frozen spinach, then just make sure that you thaw it out, obviously, and then wring it dry really well. You don't want that excess water in it. So again, we're going to use fresh. You're welcome to use either one. We're going to use a little bit of pizza cheese, is what I call it, which is a mozzarella mild cheddar combination. You can use any cheese you want to. I think a white cheese, a white cheddar, or a white mozzarella goes best, but you're welcome to use any color you'd like. Also, some shredded Parmesan cheese. Of course, we need artichoke hearts and a little salt and pepper. And that's all there is to this recipe. So, let's get started. All you need is a bowl. And to that bowl, we are going to add pretty much all of our ingredients, with the exception of the cheese, the mild cheddar or mozzarella cheese. That will be on our top, and as it bakes, it becomes nice and beautiful and golden brown. But we'll start this way here. We have some cream cheese we're going to put in, if it wants us to. There we go. Oh, you know what? Let me get my glove on here. This is one of those recipes that actually gloves work well, because you want to get in there and mix it with your hands. So we're going to add this cream cheese here. This is 12 ounces of cream cheese. If you're buying the blocks of cream cheese at the store, it's 1.5 of those. Okay. We are going to add to that about a cup of mayo. That's going in here too. I'm sorry, 3/4 cup mayo, not a whole cup. So 3/4 mayo. We have a shredded Parmesan cheese. This gives it a really delicious flavor, and we're just going to put that all right in there. I mean, how can anything with that much Parmesan cheese be anything but delicious? I'm going to actually mix it up a little bit just to make it easier when I add the rest of the ingredients. I'm just going to get there in there with my hands. It's like making meatballs. You know, it's one of those things you really got to use your hands for. So just soften that up a bit and get it ready to add the really good ingredient parts, which are chopped spinach. We're going to put that in there. This is 5 ounces. And then to that, we're going to add the artichoke hearts. But before I do that, I want to chop those up just a little bit. So let me move this aside, grab my knife. And when you buy artichoke hearts, there's several ways you can buy them. You can buy them as whole, you can buy them quartered. I usually use the quartered here at the restaurant, so that's why I have them here. It calls for 9 whole artichoke hearts, so therefore I use a lot more quartered, obviously. Multiply that by 4, and that's what I got here in this container. And I am going to do a rough chop to these. When you do your dip, and you know, when you go in there with your cracker or your toast or your whatever it is you're going to use, you know, you want to get a good piece of that artichoke in it. So I don't you know, puree the heck out of these and chop the heck out of these, but I do give them a little bit of a chop so that it's not overbearing when you get into it. So let's just go through those. Rough chop a couple times. Notice I'm holding my knife the way I've taught you many times on my class or in my show. And by the way, that's never a smart thing to do. Don't do that at home. Because what happens is, and I've done it many times, you do that, you actually hit the edge and you'll get your finger. Never a good idea. All right, so those are nice. And what we're going to do now is get that glove back on. We're going to add that to our mix. Now, if you like other things into your dip, you can add them. Again, you know, as long as you have the basic ingredients like the cheeses and that kind of thing, what you add to it is completely up to you. This, as you know, is a very traditional recipe, or very traditional dip, I should say. You'll always find it at a party somewhere. So it's probably a good idea to know how to make it. So we're just mixing that all around up well. Once that's fully incorporated, we are good to go. If you're not a huge spinach fan, I make this often even without spinach. You just add a little bit more artichoke. You could add a little bit of chopped roasted red pepper. You can add, you know, all kinds of neat stuff to it. Whatever your imagination takes you, or wherever it takes you, is really the only limit you've got. All right, so now we are mixed up nice and thoroughly here. All we do at this point is take it and put it into an oven-proof container or dish, which we're doing here. You don't really need to spray it or grease it or anything like that. You just put it right into that dish. Whoop. Gonna make that flat there. And that's when, at this point, is where we put in the rest of that cheese. So we have the spinach and artichoke dip inside. Take a little bit of that cheese, spread it all around, and you're done. How easy was that? So this is the artichoke dip. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in the back, put it in the oven, and get that ready while we make the next dip, which is going to be a buffalo chicken dip. So we'll put this in at 350 for about 20 minutes or so, okay? The next dip is the buffalo dip, and this is a buffalo chicken dip. This is as easy as the artichoke dip is, and really it's just about pulling all the ingredients together into the bowl and mixing. Now, a lot of people have very strong feelings about buffalo sauce. Certainly, I think probably the most popular is Frank's, and you can buy that just about anywhere. You can also, however, now buy all types of barbecue sauces at any grocery store. And in fact, there's even a, I want to keep saying barbecue, there's a buffalo sauce of the month club that you could join or give as a gift if you know somebody who in fact loves it that much. But today I'm using a buffalo sauce called Red Devil. That is one that I like, and that's what I actually buy it by the gallon here for the restaurant, of course. And what we have is a cup of that. To the buffalo sauce, we of course have our chicken. We got some cream cheese and mayonnaise, just like the artichoke dip, a little salt and pepper, and a little crumbled blue cheese. We're going to add that in here as well. As you know, most buffalo things, whether they be wings or dips, come usually with some blue cheese on the side. We're going to add some fresh crumbled blue cheese right into it. Gives it a nice tang that I think you'll enjoy. So, step one. Season the meat. The way I season the meat is by pouring the shredded chicken into the bowl. And you can tell it's shredded. It's not chunks. I'm shredding the chicken. It just gives it a nicer mix for a dip, I think. If you like big chunks, go for it. But in this case, we're not. And to that, we're going to add the buffalo sauce. So we're trying to get the meat all nice and seasoned with that sauce. And we do that first. To that, we add the rest of the ingredients with the exception of the pizza or the mozzarella cheese, just like the artichoke dip, where that goes on top at the end. So to that I'm going to add some 8 ounces of cream cheese. We have some mayonnaise here. And that crumbled blue I talked about. Oop. And we have a little bit of salt and pepper. And actually, I think in the last segment I forgot to mention the salt and pepper on the artichoke and spinach dip. You do in fact have a little of that goes in too. And then we're going to mix this all up nicely. And again, this is one of those things you really got to dive into. If you have gloves at home, go for it. If you don't, just obviously make sure your hands are nice and clean. And just mix that all nice up together. And really, what you're doing here is more about breaking up that cream cheese and getting that evenly distributed into the mix. And once you've done that, you are good to go, because you know this is going to go into the oven, so it's going to kind of melt amongst itself as it cooks. All right, and that's it. Now what we're going to do is put it into a oven-safe dish. We're just going to pour that on in. Move that aside. And then we're going to take that cheese that we left off to the side, put it on the top just like we did with the artichoke dip. And now I'm going to bring this into the back, put it in the oven, 350, probably about 20 minutes or so. And then we're going to try all the dips along with the lobster asparagus. And our final dip today is the lobster asparagus dip. This is a cold dip that we're going to put into some neat molds, and it is absolutely a delicious add to your party food. It sounds like a gourmet dip, lobster and asparagus, which really, you know, are very fine foods, as we all know. However, this is one of those items that you cheat and you make with canned ingredients in some cases. So it's kind of a semi-homemade type of thing. And you won't, you know, you can call it gourmet, but a true gourmet will probably argue with you a little bit. But I'm not going to worry about that, and nor should you. So the way that this works is kind of a 3-step process. We do take care of the asparagus part of this. Then we have the cheese part, and as you can tell from this dish in front of me, there's quite a bit of cream cheese in this dish. And then we have the lobster and the seasoning part of it. Now, this dish makes quite a bit of quite a big dip, and you can actually put it into a couple different containers. The problem is, though, it doesn't freeze well. So this is not one that you could go ahead and make the full recipe if you don't think you're going to use it all. If you don't think you need that much dip, then cut it in half. And the ingredients are such that it's easy to do that. So just cut it in half, and that way you only need use what you need, and you're not going to waste anything, because clearly lobster is not a cheap thing to be wasting. So this case, we are going to make the whole recipe, and that'll show you kind of what to expect once you do. And we will go from there. So let's get started. As I said, there's 3 steps. The first step is the asparagus. The recipe calls for 2 10-ounce cans of asparagus tips, cut asparagus tips. I could not find asparagus tips for some reason. I have before. I don't know if they stopped making them. Maybe my store stopped carrying them. I'm not sure. But in any event, I use the spears and the tips, which is perfectly okay. You're going to puree the heck out of these anyway. It works fine. Please don't get a little bit upset because you're going to miss out on them, or not have the right ingredients, I should say. It is perfectly okay. So the asparagus, and the way that works is you're going to put. We have drained, for the most part, 2 cans of the asparagus that we're putting right into our food processor. And we just have the blend blade, if you will. I don't know what the right name for it is. The blade at the bottom there. in the food processor at the moment. I have reserved about a 1/4 cup of the juice that came from the can, and it's still here in the can. And that is important because you need a little more juice once you puree to dissolve the gelatin. So let's put that right on in. We have the asparagus in there. We're going to turn that on. We're just going to let that puree up just a bit. Just give it a few pulses, make sure all of the pieces are gone. And you can tell by looking at it, it's really just a paste of asparagus. At this point, you add the reserved liquid. It's about a 1/4 cup. You'll get a lot more of that than a 1/4 cup in the can, by the way, so you will be draining off quite a bit of it. Your best bet is to save the 1/4 cup and then just drain everything else. To that, with the extra liquid, we're going to add 2 packages of gelatin. Now, you've seen the box when you looked at the ingredient shot. This is just a Knox plain gelatin. This is used for all kinds of things, making pâtés and jellos, of course, and different molds and dips. We are using it here. This is what ultimately, of course, makes our dip into a mold to allows it to keep its shape. So I've added 2 packages to that with that extra juice, and now I'm going to move that around. Doesn't take long at all, as you can tell. And we have the asparagus part of that all ready to go. I'm just going to leave that right here and leave that aside. Now we have the cream cheese. As I said, there's 24 ounces of cream cheese here. I am going to get a saucepan. I'm going to put that kind of on a medium-low heat to the pan. I'm going to add this cream cheese, all of it. It cracks me up how much cheese there's in there. And to that, I'm going to add 1 can of cream of asparagus soup. You don't have to water down the water down the soup. You just take it right out of the can. I don't have the can here because I made one earlier. So I've just opened it up. We're going to pour it right in with this. I don't know if you can hear that sizzling. That's why you want to keep it on kind of a medium heat. This, I like to use a whisk and just kind of push it all down together. And it will melt. It doesn't take very long. And we're going to melt that. Ugh. You got to work it a little bit. But it doesn't take long for it to all come together. Nice and smooth. That's all you're looking for. Ugh. And once that all incorporates and becomes smooth and blended, we're going to let that sit aside. It's already starting to, believe it or not. I know it doesn't sound that way, but it actually is. I'm going to use a spoon to get this out of the whisk. Probably be smart if I used a little smaller of a whisk, although the important thing here is that the whisk needs to be pretty good size tongs on it, or tines, or whatever they're called, because it is trying to break it up. So, and that you don't want it to break your whisk. So there we go. Whoop. Good to the last drop. Put that in there. And then, all right, move that all around again. We're almost there, believe it or not. And while that's staying warm, I'm going to move over to the other piece of it, which is, or the third step, which is the lobster and the seasoning. The recipe calls for one of those cans of lobster meat that I know you're probably very familiar with. It's a can, it's about this big, and it's about anywhere between 10 and 13 ounces of lobster meat. You can also buy it in a bag, depending on where you shop. This I bought in a bag, which is why I'm not showing you what the can looks like. And this is actually this is right now a little bit over a pound of lobster meat. So there's 16 ounces in a pound. So I don't need as much as I have here. I'm going to reserve a little of it just to garnish at the end of it all. But what I got was the lobster claws and knuckles. You can get tails if you want to, but these work really just as well, and they aren't usually quite as expensive. But I do like to have the chunks in the dip. So while we are going to take a moment and kind of break that lobster up, we're not going to shred it like we did with the chicken for the buffalo. We're going to leave it and have it be chunky and beautiful that way. This is just about done here. You can see it's really starting to become a beautiful cheesy mix. We'll let that keep going. And what I'm going to do now is take the mayonnaise, which is on your recipe. How much on our recipe? I think it's a cup of mayonnaise here. Put that into the bowl. Again, love using my gloves so I can just get my hands right on in. We're going to put some celery seed in here. And then we're going to put some lobster in. Now, as I said, this is more than we need. I'm actually going to take it, and as I pull it out, I'm going to drain a little of the juice. You can probably see there's some juice coming out of that. And then I'm just going to kind of break it up quickly with my fingers. I'm going to actually reserve one of these nice little claws so we can garnish a little later. All right, we're going to string that. As another reason why I like to do this with my hands is because every once in a while you'll get a little piece of that plastic, if you will, the ligament that's inside of the crab and the lobster shells or the mussel. So when you do this, you're actually preventing that from sneaking into your dish, which you definitely don't want to have happen. Nobody likes getting anything plastic in their mouth, that's for sure. All right, you can see there's quite a bit of lobster meat going right into this. Let's drain out that excess juice. If you love lobster, then go ahead and put in the whole pound. This is actually quite a bit of lobster for a dip. So, yeah, we'll give it one more little piece here. What the heck, we'll put the rest in. Why not? And again, just going to reserve a little bit here, a couple little knuckles or claws for our garnish. Okay, give it one more stir, and I think this is done. Yep, if you could tell, it is nice and creamy. It's nice and smooth. It didn't take very long at all. I'm going to shut that off. Just leave it here on the stove while we take this and into the this bowl as well with the mayonnaise and the lobster is a little very finely chopped onion. Kind of like plastic. You don't want a big old piece of onion when you dip into this. So we finely chopped that so that it's nice for everybody to get. Other than that, I think I've got all my ingredients in there, so I don't want to double check here. There we go. Yep. So I'm going to take this, and we're just going to mix that lobster around with the celery seed we put in, and the onion. And there you go. Put that aside. Take your asparagus mixture. Remove the blade. You certainly don't want to get that in your dip. Scrape off all the goodness there. And we are going to take this cream cheese mixture, and we are going to add our asparagus mixture to that. Now remember, this has the gelatin in it. Ultimately, this is the reason why this is all going to come together. Of course, it'll take a couple hours to have that be the case, and then we're just mixing this all up. Again, I'll hold this up. You can probably see it. I'm just going to mix that all up. Not necessarily a great color. We will garnish it such that it looks nicer. You can certainly smell the asparagus associated with it here. And then to that mixture, we're going to add our lobster and the mayonnaise and all the other stuff. So I think I'm going to swap here, move away from this guy, and use my spatula to do the rest. Just break that up, incorporate it all together nicely. And you can tell by looking at this, this whole pan is almost full of dip. So it makes quite a bit. I guarantee you it'll go, but it is a lot and you may not want to do it all in one sitting. All right, and then the final thing you do is to put it into some sort of mold. Now, as far as molds go, you need to have a glass or a ceramic dish, or even a silicone dish will work. What you don't want to have is a metal dish. I don't know why. I wish I could give you that answer, but I don't. What I do know is you just do it that way because that's what they say. These are some silicone molds. And one of the things I like to do when I have something that big is you can put them in smaller. You don't have to put it all in one. You can put it in some smaller molds. One of my favorite things to do is use these little silicone molds I have. And you can, and think about, if you picture for a moment, and we'll actually show you this in a moment, if you get a nice large tray, you cover it with some greens, you have some of these little molds, and you place those around, you can really have a very pretty presentation with some of these little molds. You could also save a couple of the little ones at home and just bring half of it with you, and then you still have one that'll last several days in your refrigerator. Or what we're going to do here is to put it all in one. You can see this is a bundt cake pan, and this will all fit nicely in here, and you can kind of picture that as it will come out, and after it's all done, how you could really make that pretty in the end. So I'm going to take this mold, and I'm going to pour in our lobster dip. And that fills it up nicely. Just kind of even that out. I am now going to take that into the back, put it in the refrigerator. It's going to take a good 2 to 4 hours to really get to where it should be. But in the meantime, I'll go grab the ones that, in fact, I've already done. And I'll grab the other 2 dips, which I'm sure are already in the oven by now. And we are going to try all the dips that we've made today. And now for the fun part, the eating, and actually the decorating. The first thing I want to do is show you what we do with the lobster dip, but with some ideas. You can do whatever you'd like, obviously. When I made the other lobster dip, I told you I had made one already because it needed to chill. I put it in several different molds. This is all one recipe. So I have kind of a little loaf pan mold. I have just a dish. I have a little sun and the moon. And then what I'd like to do is take a tray, whatever you're going to serve it on, line it with a few greens, whatever greens you choose, and make sure they're, it's not too heavy, just evenly or lightly, I should say, over the dish. I think I'm going to leave this mold out, but what we're going to try to do is just take a butter knife, and hopefully this will come out. You'll never know. If it's chilled enough and the mold is enough, it should be able to come out pretty easily. I think I'm going to take this and just put it upside down right in the center of this. There you go. Nice. Now what you'll find is sometimes it sticks a little bit. Just take your knife and kind of smooth it out. Now just by looking at what that looks like, that's a pretty good sized dip in itself. Remember, that's not even half the recipe. Then I had my little star and moons. So I think what I'll do is maybe try to loosen that up just a little bit around the edge. You gotta love the silicone molds because they move so well and they're so flexible. This guy here, I'm just gonna put right down next to him. And hopefully he'll come out. It looks like it. Oh yeah, beautiful. And then finally we'll do a little moon mold on this side here. And we'll leave the loaf for another time. Just to give you an idea, we'll put that in, kind of shake it out, and there we go. To this, one of the things I like to do is I remember we reserved some lobster, excuse me. We reserved a little bit of the lobster claw. So I have a little claw here. I'm going to slice it. Let me move this aside so you can potentially see. Kind of put it on its edge there. I'll do it this way. And slice through it. So I have two sides that I can use. Okay? And whether you want to put them along the edge, on the top, if you just want to chop up a little of the meat and put it on top of another, you can do it. Whatever you choose. You could have it sticking out. You can make a little jaws. Whatever works for you. One of the things that I also like to do is when there's something in a dip or something I'm making that is not necessarily completely obvious, I like to take some of that fresh, and in this case I'm talking asparagus spears. You can tell it's a green dip. You have no idea why. So that people do know, I've taken a couple fresh asparagus spears, these are raw, and I've actually slit them right down the center. And all I'm going to do here is probably just cut them a little bit shorter. And again, you can just kind of line the side of your dip with them, which will allow people to realize, oh, okay, there's asparagus in there. And I think that goes a long way. You don't want people to have to ask you what something is necessarily. So if you just kind of crisscross or whatever design you like. And then finally, lemon will bring a nice yellow to this to the dish. It's seafood, so lemon is always a good idea to have around. What I like to do is cut a little lemon ring. I'm going to take it and I'm going to slice just from the center down. So just a little slice from the center down in one spot. And that allows me to twist. So I take one and go forward, one and go back. And then we can put it here. I'll put it on top of this one, or we'll put it right on the tray. And then you have a very nice little lemon twist that you can include on the tray as well. We'll do it again. You know, we'll have it here. We could do a third one here. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. But you do want to dress it up a little bit, and preferably with ingredients that are inside of it. Okay? So there you have it. That's our lobster dip. Now all that's left to do is to try these delicious dips. To do that, we're going to use a few crackers. We have our buffalo dip, which is clearly done here, as well as our artichoke dip. I like to serve these with spoons so people can just reach in and grab some, along with you can use a pita chip or a cracker as we're doing here. You could make little toasts. The key though is that it be pretty sturdy. So let's give the buffalo dip a little try. How can you go wrong? You can really taste a little bit of that tang from the blue cheese, and the buffalo sauce is just delicious. I'm gonna finish this. Next, this is the fun part of my job. Next, I'm going to do the same thing with the artichoke and spinach dip. And we're going to take that, add a little on top. Oh man, that is so good. Get ready for this one. I believe what makes this is the Parmesan cheese. I think the Parmesan cheese really adds a flavor that is fantastic in that dip. And then finally, let's go to the gourmet or not so gourmet dip that we've made. This guy here, people can just jump right into. Or we can get you probably should serve it with a little dip knife if you have it. And we're just going to try a piece of that. And just about everywhere you go, you're going to get a little piece of lobster with it. So we'll try that. Perfect. Again, these are the warm ones. This is cold. They're all delicious dips. So when you have a party to go to, try one of these recipes. Or if you're just going to sit at home for the game, enjoy them. Food made with love tastes better all the time.